Should you buy the Galaxy Note 8 in 2021? Let's find out. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and let's find out should you still buy or use the Galaxy Note 8 in 2021. The Note 8 is for sure one of the best Note in the Galaxy Note series and it was my most favorite Android phone at that time. It was released in late 2017 and it was the successor of the Note 7 which had that terrible story of explosions, and that was probably the reason why this phone was highly anticipated and there were these high expectations or curiosities for this phone, and I think it did prove it with its much improved Note experience. It's basically a phablet sized phone, much bigger than the average smartphones at that time, with its big tall boxy 6.4-inch screen, and it feels much bigger than it is in the hand, which I liked it a lot. So it was a complete or perfect package for those people who wanted extra on a smartphone, like extra size, extra power, extra RAM and storage, and extra battery, although it was noticeably smaller for some reason, and an extra stylish experience in a phone, which it definitely provided. So should you still buy it or use it? And first of all, looking at the design, this design is definitely not old looking, still it is very premium, and the build is also very premium with this shiny steel like aluminum frame and Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and back. This tall boxy solid looking shape is very unique in itself and it feels very premium solid flagship in the hand. I think it's still very modern, if not like the newer phones. Of course new phones might look better in some ways, but I think this is still not very outdated, especially than many plastic back phones or entry level 2021 phones in this price. And speaking of the price, you can get this phone now like 1/5 of its price when released, and you can find a used or a refurbished one for around $200, maybe more or less than, and I think it's still a great value for the money. And speaking of the display, which is its main eye-catching feature, this is a 6.3 inches Samsung proprietary Super AMOLED panel with 1440p resolution, 500 plus ppi, and also it's HDR10, and it is crazy sharp, bright, rich, colorful, high contrast display, which is very awesome looking with this 83% screen to body ratio. And this display was for sure unmatchable at that time, and it is still a 2021 display I think, except the high refresh rate, and I think it's not a deal breaker for this price and for this type of display. It is clean without any notch or punch hole and have some bezels, which some people just love this type of uninterrupted screen, and some like more slimmer bezels and full screen experience, and that's up to you. But for me I think it's a little old looking, but overall this is a very good display for almost all types of people. And speaking of the performance, it has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 or Exynos 8895, and both are 10nm chipsets, which both are still very good flagship performance processors, and I think are still better than the Snapdragon 600 and 700 series and some MediaTek chipsets as well. The Exynos is having some problems in some heavy tasks like gaming, and it gets hot, also it drains battery, but the Qualcomm one is still a champ with pretty much no any issue in performance and battery life. So for the performance, there is still nothing to worry about, especially if you are a general user, and if you are a heavy user or a gamer, then this phone is not for you, although gaming is still very smooth on both the Snapdragon and the Exynos one with some extra loading time. But other than that, I think a large number of people can use this phone without any hassle. In daily tasks, you will not just realize any big difference in performance between this and new phones or new mid-range phones in this price. After performance, speaking of the battery life, it has a 33 milliamps battery, which is smaller than the standard battery size in 2021, and the battery size was reduced at that time to avoid any mishap again I think, but the battery life is still not terrible. You can get up to 5 hours of screen on time or less than that with slight to moderate usage with Qualcomm variant, and with Exynos variants you will get 3.5 to 4 hours of screen on time depending on your usage pattern. Standby time is also not good with the Exynos variants, and with Qualcomm variants it's a little bit better, but overall standby time is not very satisfying. Again, if you are a power user, then this phone might not fit in your hand, and if you are a general to moderate user, then you will not be disappointed with it. And overall it's an average or below average battery life, especially by the 2021 standards. Speaking of the camera, it has two lenses, a main lens and a zoom lens. Both have the OIS and both are the 12 megapixels. Main lens is f1.7 with dual pixel phase detection autofocus, which means a very fast autofocus for a smartphone camera. Second lens is 52mm telephoto with 2x optical zoom, which is very effective in portrait mode and it works perfectly. So the picture quality is very Samsung, clear, sharp, high dynamic range, still better than many mid-range flagship killers or even flagships. It also handles low light pretty decently, and I don't say it's the best camera, but it is still the standard quality camera still in 2021. It can shoot 4K 30fps 1080p 60fps video, and video quality is also decent if not so good by the 2021 standards. And speaking of the software, this is the area where Samsung makes us frustrated, especially if you look at this hardware. This is surely capable of running the newer Android versions, but sadly it's stuck at Android 9 and even it's not upgradable to Android 10. But I think Android 9 also works fine in almost all cases. The Android app support is still good for this version, and in daily usage there is still not that much of problems, but you are not just getting the new features of the Samsung UI and Android. And overall it's still not that much old or outdated. It's still smooth and fluid and have no any big problem in performance and app handling. The phone gets hot in some heavy tasks due to the app updates. Of course, apps are updated for the newer versions and new features, which causes a little slowdown as well, but overall that's still not a big deal. You can also flash a custom ROM in Exynos variants, which will slightly improve your experience with this phone, but Qualcomm variants are at Android 9 like this one. After that, you get all the features which you probably want in any complete phone, like wireless charging, standard 15-watt fast charging, water resistance, USB-C, 6GB of RAM with 64, 128 and 256 gigs of storage options, a very loud and clear surround sounding speaker which is my favorite. It also has an iris scanner for face unlock and a fast fingerprint sensor which is placed at a very unusual place, but if you use it a lot you are gonna used to it, especially if you have big hands, and it's also very fast. It also has this iconic S Pen which I personally don't use at all, but it's definitely very useful for some people I know. And for durability, I would say it's a durable phone, but it's kind of afraid of the drops, especially this big display. And even with some slight drops or forcing on the display will leave these black spots in the screen, or maybe pink or green lines in the screen, so you have to be careful about that. And also if you use it on high brightness, like maximum brightness for longer period of time, you might see some sort of burn-in or image of the icons or whatever you are using deep in the screen, so also you have to know about that. And that's all about the Galaxy Note 8 in 2021, and let me know in the comments below if you are currently using a Note 8 or planning to buy a Galaxy Note 8. And thank you so much guys for watching. Please be sure to subscribe and see you in the next one.